Welcome to Ruggers. Carl, last week we discussed all the moves within the schoolboy rugby scene in terms of coaches and directors of rugby being appointed. One of the schools we discussed were HTS Drostdy and the current dilemma that they're facing, having lost their director or head of rugby recently. And we basically stated that due to perceived lack of support from the school governing body and the headmaster. However, this week the headmaster was in contact with you, just to also give a better perspective of the situation from his side.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we said it was due to, we said similar situations elsewhere it was due to. The principal was I would also be a little bit aggressive, and the guy at the background was also a bit upset with me. That was not our intention. Drostdy HTS has been for the past 20, 30 years, always been, and you come from that area. They were always a force to be reckoned with, but never at the level that they reached the past 2-3 years when Mr. Boyson was there. So the intention was not to say Drostdy HTS is not a rugby school. That we never said. The second thing, the principal was quite adamant that Mr. Boyson left because he got a better offering from Elderain High School, not because the school wanted to cut down on the expenses on the rugby program. And also the guy in charge of their fitness, he left for Dubai, I think, because also of a better job opportunity that he got there.
Which happens.
Which happens. And the third thing, he said the only children that left was due to problems, disciplinary problems. No other pupil at this stage has left because of the head of rugby and a conditioning coach not being there anymore.
Okay.
So that's what I was told by the principal. I personally, I still feel that Drostdy will have a lot of work in front of them. The fixture list for next year is really a proper fixture list, but that's the fixture list you expect to play when you want to be counted as one of the top rugby schools in South Africa. And yeah, we'll have to see what the effect is. But that brings us to my next question, is if your child is good at rugby and you think he's a Springbok, how do you plan his future? To what school do you send him?
No.
And again, it's not on Drostdy HTS or on Elderain or whatever, but we must understand, Francois, if your kid is really a talented rugby player, he must go to a proper rugby school. The first thing you look at is the rugby program. Who's driving the rugby program? For how long has it been in process? Because quickly you get a lot of schools, and I've said it before, we mentioned Middelburg HTS last weekend, we mentioned Elderain, where it was the initial drive was started by either a principal or a coach. Most 60-70% of the time it's been driven by a group of parents that's had a talented group that goes to the high school, and then they try to force the thing. So as a rugby parent, you must make sure, especially when you're there on a bursary, especially if you cannot afford that school's
tuition
fees and hostel fees and everything, make sure it's a rugby program that's not driven by parents. It's a rugby program that's been there for ages.
So well established and comprehensively supported.
Yeah.
Throughout the governing body, the principal, the structures in place, etc., etc.
Yeah, and I mean we can mention a school like Office. We can mention a school. I'm going to get a hiding again. We can mention a school like Paul Roos. That only last year and this year started to change back again with a proper scouting system, with a proper supporting system.
A new head of rugby.
Bring everything back into place. It's not that easy to be a top rugby school in South Africa. It doesn't take hundreds of thousands of rands, it takes millions per year to get you there.
Yeah.
So if you cannot afford the tuition fees, the hostel fees and everything, it's very important to make sure that that rugby program at that school can carry itself. Does have.
So in other words, what you're saying is, don't take the first best offer that comes your way. Think about it clearly, look at about it clearly before deciding.
Yeah, and I think what's very important is be honest to yourself and your kid about these talents.
Of course. Yeah.
Because a lot of us are trying to sell our kids, and I mean, we stating facts now today. We're not covering up or trying to put it mildly. There's a lot of parents that are selling their kids to the highest bidder. And don't do that. Be honest with yourself. Rather let your kid be a hero in Oorverkruin, in I must be careful now, in a school that's not a top rugby school. If that's the level that he will play at, and if that's the level, the best level he will be able to reach, and you as a parent should know. I mean, it's clearly, if your kid is not one of the top rugby players in South Africa at school level, at that age level, accept the fact he will fall away at the bigger schools. He will drop down to the C, the D, the E, the F team, and he will disappear and most probably not play rugby after school. And Francois, that's it.
Yeah. Also important to mention is the culture of the school, and in terms of will your child fit in with that specific course. Each school has its own specific culture.
Yeah.
So that's also a point to consider. Your child needs to be happy about where he's going to be, and not be.
And you yourself as parent also. I know the first time I got to Office, I was looked at because obviously I didn't fit in there. I came from the wrong side of town. But yeah. Let's be honest. Let's put aside our differences with Drostdy HTS and the new principal. I pray that your rugby program continues on the level that it did the past 2-3 years, because that's what you need to make it a success. But the parents and everybody must be brutally honest with themselves in selecting the school, in accepting offers and everything, because you must remember your kid is one of 100,000 talented kids, but not of the top 100 schoolboys.
Yeah, thank you. And really all the best going forward for RTS. We're really looking forward to the new appointment and next year's program.
Yeah,
thank you.
So great stuff. Enjoy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.